Hi, this is Scott with Etrailer. Today we're taking a look at and installing our Redarc Brake Controller for 2021 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. One of the first things I like about the Redarc Tow Pro Liberty is the fact that I don't have a great big box sitting here in the way. A lot of your older style brake controllers are going to have this big thing hanging down, and then you're going to have the wires coming down under that, and they're kind of just draped up and around. So one of the things that's nice is the only thing you have with this brake controller is just your dial and your switch right here, which is really nice, and it's still accessible and you can still use it just like a normal brake controller. It's just most of it is hidden. You don't see the wiring harness, you don't see even the control box for it or anything. That's all mounted in behind the dash, so the dial is all you're going to be seeing. Anytime you want to increase your braking power, this thing's going to go from 0 all the way up to 10. And so with that, another nice thing about it is you could do this on the fly, or you can have it set to where you want it all the time. And if you're going down the road and say you kind of have a stop coming up that's kind of an emergency stop, you can always push this in and you can see it turns red. That's going to activate your brakes on your trailer anytime you push that button. One thing about it as well is this is going to be proportionate. So if you put it on, say, 6 or 4, it's going to still apply the brakes on your trailer just as much as you're putting on yours. So it's not going to give any jerky grabbing or anything while you're going down the road. This is going to work just like the old school style where you can set it proportionally, but this is going to do it all the time. So every time you push the brakes, it's going to push the brakes the same on your trailer. One of the things you're going to need to get set up for a brake controller is you're going to need your 7-way plug on the rear. And this is basically a universal kit. What this is going to do, it's going to give you your 7-way plug, and it's also going to give you your 4-way plug as well, so you maintain that. Now, in order to get this set up, what you're going to want to have is already have some existing trailer wiring set up. So your traditional 4-pole wiring will plug into this, and you'll also add some wires to this setup and run them forward, and that'll give you everything you need to have your signal for your brake controller. So if you have the Redarc or you plan on getting this and you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave a comment or some pictures below. We'd love to hear from you. As far as installation for this one goes, it is pretty involved and there is a lot of wiring that you have to do. So if it's something you don't have time to do yourself, you can always take a look at our dealer locator and have something done for you locally. If it's something you feel like doing yourself, stick around, watch our video, and we'll help you get it installed. Now, one of the things you will need to do to get this installation complete is you are going to need a brake light switch. So we had an extra one of these laying around. Just wanted to show you kind of how this works. This will go on a bracket and it'll go on the mount right above the arm of the brake. So when the brake pedal goes in, this switch will let go, and that's what's going to give you your brake light signal. And then when your brake arm comes back up, it's going to push that button in and it will turn off the brake signal. Yeah, so this is just something you're going to definitely have to have in order to get your brake light signal. To start our installation, we're going to need to get our 7-way plug installed. So our bracket that comes in the kit, I just went ahead and mounted that up with self-tapping screws onto our bumper beam underneath of here. Now, in our kit, we are going to have our hardware. That's going to come in our kit. We're just going to go ahead and get our wires all pushed through our bracket. I will take our screw, put that through the bracket. Now for our hardware, we'll take our flat washer, a lock washer, and our nut. Just get that put in place and just loosely install that now. With all of our hardware in place, we'll come back through and just snug down all of our hardware. Now after we have all those screwed in place, we're going to have our wires coming off of the back. Now we're going to have our 4-pole wiring that kind of comes up by our plug itself. That is going to be mounted up here, so that's going to give us 4-pole wiring along with our 7-pole wiring. Just want to slide that onto our bracket. Now we can get to our wiring. We have our 4-pole that comes off of our pigtail. What we want to do is snip off our cover. Now we'll take our existing 4-pole wiring that we have coming from our vehicle. Let's go ahead and plug those two together. Now our white wire coming off here, that is going to be our ground. Our black wire is going to be our power for our plug itself. Our blue wire is going to run forward, and that is going to be our signal for our brakes on our trailer. Our yellow wire is going to be a reverse wire. This one is not going to be used, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to end up taping this one up against our harness in case they want to use it in the future. All right, now we went ahead and cut off the connectors that were on here. There's nothing wrong with them, they will work, but we went ahead and replaced those with heat shrink butt connectors. And what those are going to do for us is provide us with a waterproof seal, and they'll heat up and shrink around our wires, and it just gives us a little bit extra security against corrosion. And now we have our wire harness, and we have our duplex wires here. We just cut a little slit down this, and then pull back some of the gray sheathing. Now we have a black wire and a white wire that comes out of that. Our black wire is going to be our power running forward towards our battery, and that is going to run back here to our plug. So we're just going to get that crimped in place. Give it a little pull, make sure we have a good connection, and we do. Now our white wire that comes out, that is going to be our brake signal from our brake controller. So we're just going to get that crimped in place as well. Now what I'll do is come back with my heat source, which will be my heat gun, and I'll heat up both of my connections. Now we went ahead and taped up our plug. And basically what we did after we taped it up is we ran a tie around it, a wire tie. And what that's going to do is just make this pretty much a permanent attachment so it won't be coming apart, and it'll also be nice and waterproof. Now what I'll do is I'll just come back through and I'll bundle up my wires and just get some tape over all of this just to kind of hold it together. Now one of the things you want to do is just kind of tuck your wires up and get a general idea of where you're going to have them go. That way you can get your ground figured out. So what I'm going to do is I have mine figured out. I'm just going to run right through here into the frame. That's going to give us a really good ground. After you get that in there, just give it a little tug. Make sure you have a good connection. Now as far as our wiring goes, the way we routed it, we took the wire that comes out of our plug here in the back, and we did tuck that back up against the frame. We don't have a whole lot of room between our muffler and the frame, so we just kind of wire tied that back through the frame and just pulling it against the frame as much as we can here. Then we came up, we ran our ground, bottom of the frame, and we came up over. And then we shot across with our wiring up and over our heat shield of our muffler. Then we came over to the driver's or the passenger side portion of our frame. Then we came across and tied off to hold that up. Jumped up on over our spring bucket, came up over and then ran all the way down over to the top of our frame. We tied off to factory wiring above here. Came all the way, then we ended up coming out here towards the front, ran up, tying off to our factory wiring harness. Then we shot it up and ended up getting it up right by the battery on the passenger side. Now after we came up, we ran our wire right here and we ended up stripping a bunch of our wire back, the sheathing that's over it, off of our duplex, and we got it stripped back to here and left it for the rest of the run down through the frame. Now the white wire, we went ahead and left it long and we ran it up and through and over to our driver's side, where there's a grommet, which we'll show you in a second, where we made our way into our dash. This wire is going to be our brake signal for our trailer brakes. Now our black wire coming out, we ran up behind and ended up coming over to our 40 amp circuit breaker here, and we ran that to our silver post, and that is run back to our auxiliary, which will go to give us 12 volt to our trailer. Now we have our power line. We just cut off a piece of our black wire and we ran that to the copper. And this one will run up and over to our battery, where we came out right here, where we have a supplied ring terminal. Now this one is our 40 amp. This one is our 30 amp. This one will be supplying power to our brake controller. So what we're going to do is, this wire we have coming through is some extra black wire that we had, and we ran that across as well and into the dash. Now this one will be going over here to our 30 amp breaker to the silver side, and then we'll go ahead and run an extra piece of lead from our copper over to the positive of our battery. So I'll just go ahead and get that connected right now. Now we'll take our 3/8 socket and just go ahead and get that tightened down. Now for running across here, we just pushed our wire back, and the little clips here that are sticking in there are going to hold that back in there. Plus we ran it through here underneath, behind that, and also in between these, and those are also going to help hold that wiring in. Yeah, you can just tuck that back in there out of the way. That way it keeps it away from heat. It's not going to fall down into your engine or anything like that, and it's well protected. So we came across and then we ran down. So now all of our wiring is going to go through a grommet. If your Jeep Wrangler is a automatic, you're going to have this grommet that runs right down here, and that's going to be a plastic grommet. All we did is just ended up pushing a hole through there with the grommet tool that I have. It just made a hole big enough to get all of my wiring to go through there, and it's open in the back of it, so it's a really good place to run wiring through. Now after we're all done with this, we can use silicone sealant and just cover that up, and that'll keep water and any kind of dust from coming up underneath of your dash. Now we're in the vehicle and we can see where we have our wires coming out. Now the two wires that we have coming in, our white wire is going to be our signal wire for our trailer brakes, and our black wire is going to be power to our brake controller. So now on our harness that we have, this is going to be the universal harness to our Redarc brake controller. Now we have a white wire that comes off of that, and that is going to be ground, and I did put a ring terminal on this one, so that one is going to be set up for our ground. Our black wire coming off of our harness is going to be our power to our brake controller. Our blue is going to be our trailer brake signal. And now our red one, this one is going to be going to our brake light switch. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to need to get behind this panel. Carefully just want to apply pressure on all of the corners of your panel. If you work your fingers up behind it if you can, and just pop that out of the way. So here's what our brake light switch and our bracket is going to be looking like. And this is going to be really hard to see to install. So we'll give you a look at this after we get it put up in there. One of the things I will recommend when you're doing this is get it assembled the best you can out on the ground, and just leave a little bit of room on the end of this so you can adjust it after you get it up in there, but you want to be able to bolt it in place and still have some room where you can still adjust it. Another thing that's a good idea too is go ahead and get your switch wired up so you don't have to try and wire it up while it's tucked up in there, because it can be a little tricky to get at. And this is what I was meaning about getting it all wired up, because you are going to have to get your wires all crimped together. Now this one I have my power wire coming in from the outside that goes to the battery. And then this one, red one, is going to give me my signal to my brake controller. And this is what it looks like installed. As you can see, it's way up in there and kind of hard to get at. Now we went ahead and got our box mounted up. What I did is I had a bracket laying around, and I just went ahead and drilled a couple holes so I can run ties through it. Just ran some long wire ties through it. Basically made a little shelf here, and all I did is run through one of our pre-existing 8mm bolts that were back here in a bracket. So that's going to hold everything in place. Now when I did that, I also plugged in our harness that we just got finished wiring up, just to make it a little easier instead of trying to get behind here and plug it in. Now with our wiring, we went ahead and ran our ground up here. We have a 10mm bolt. We just ran our white wire, which is our ground, to here. And as I said, we did finish up our wiring. Now I'm going to come back through and just heat up our heat shrink butt connectors on the last 2 wires I have left here. And we'll get those all sealed up. And for a quick reminder, our blue wire that's coming out of our harness, that is connected to our white wire. And I did connect that with the white wire. This one is going back to our brakes for our trailer. And this one will be our power to our brake controller. Now what we're going to do is get figured out where we want to mount our button. Now we're thinking about right in here is a good location. On this vehicle, there's not a whole lot of places where you can find to put it, where there's actually some room behind the panel where your actual button switch is going to go with the wire plugged in. So we felt around and figured out that this location right here is going to have to work for us. Now we put some blue painter's tape on, and then we ended up using our little gray part that comes with it. And we used that as a template, so we got that put in place, and we made sure to feel behind that again to make sure we have plenty of room for that to go there, which we do. So now we're going to come back through and we'll drill out these holes and we'll get our switch mounted. Now we'll get our small hole drilled, and we just want to get that drilled at the 12 o'clock position. Now you just want to hold that in place and just get that to thread on. It may take you a few tries, but you'll just get it to thread on there and just work it down. Make sure your LED is still lined up. Now with our knob and our switch in place, just want to make sure it works. And just kind of click it back and forth. And what we're going to do now is we've got our plug that looks like an Ethernet cable plugged into the back, and we used the angled one for that. Now we're just going to plug in our cable here to the other side of our control box. And that's going to click in place just like a phone or a computer cable would. Now we just want to tuck all of our wires and get those hidden up out of the way. And before we do that, to put our knob in place, you want to turn your dial before you have the knob on it all the way to the left, so anti-clockwise. And then once we do that, we're going to find our 0 that is on our dial. And we're going to line that up with our LED. And once we do that, we'll just push our dial in place. Now we got everything put in place. We went ahead and got our wires all tied up, avoiding any moving parts and staying away from all of our brake pedals and things like that. Now we'll just go ahead and get our panels put back in place. Now we can come up front and we'll get all of our connections made to our positive post. We have a blank right here, and this is where we're going to make all of our connections. There's nothing connected to this one, but it is our positive post. Now we'll just come back through and hook up all of our power supplies. Now we'll come back through and put in our fuses. Now with everything all hooked up, we can see that we do have light in our knob for our controller, so that shows us that it is working. Now all we have to do is drive it around for a little bit and let it calibrate, and then we'll be all set. And that'll do it for the installation of our Redarc brake controller for our 2021 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited.